families, creating a lifetime of memories. Sadly, some families are denied these important moments due to the sad practice of alienation. These are families divided.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Families Divided TV. Parental alienation almost inevitably provokes anger. That's because anger arises when there is something we want that we're not getting, or something we are getting that we don't want. Targeted parents find themselves receivers of both. Targeted parents are not getting what they want, like love from and access to their children. In addition, targeted parents receive much that they do not want, much that is painfully hurtful, loss of affection from and even contact with your children, ongoing criticism and blame, false narratives and lies, and accusations from the ex-spouse, deceit, the need to spend money on costly court appearances, unfair court judgments, and on and on. In this presentation, Dr. Susan Heitler focuses on what to do with your wild stallion of anger. Learn to train your angry feelings so they serve you helpfully instead of running wild and undermining your effectiveness. I'm sure we all need this, and Dr. Heitler really puts it out very simple for us. So we're going to be back with Dr. Susan Heitler right after this important message.
Divorce and co-parenting are a major life interruption for families, especially the kids, but also for parents and grandparents. And it's even worse in blame-filled, high-conflict cases. When parents engage in alienation by turning the kids against the other parent or grandparents, kids suffer. They're denied the opportunity to build the 4 big skills necessary for future resilience. New Ways for Families online class can help. Parents learn to use our popular biff and ear skills to calm the conflict and stop the hostile emails and texts. And we even have a class for kids and parents to learn together. Research shows a 75% improvement in joint parental decision-making after this course is taken, plus overall improvements for kids' well-being. Don't wait to make this affordable investment in your children's future and improve your well-being too. Start learning new ways for your family today at conflictplaybook.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Susan Heitler, a clinical psychologist who's been working for quite a while now with parental alienation. The name of my talk today is Feeling Mad? What's good about anger? What about anger works against you? And how to turn it to your benefit. Okay. When I say mad, I'm using mad as a big basket term for all kinds of anger, starting with low-level frustration or irritation. People might say pissed, annoyed, mad, angry, escalating up all the way to rage. Those are all levels of intensity of essentially the same phenomenon. When we adrenalize and pump up and get mad. Okay. Hopefully, after hearing this talk, you're not going to let yourself adrenalize, pump up, and get mad. Rather, you'll recognize the first little beginnings and handle it in a new way. Okay, that's so much for defining what I'm referring to when I'm talking about anger. What's the problem with acting angry? I mean, it's good to have feelings. Why not show that you're irritated? Why not let people know? Well, the difficulty is there's consequences for you and for them. I've been, for various reasons, needing to eat out a lot, traveling, and I've been noticing how I respond to different waiters and waitresses. Some of them greet you immediately with a big smile. How are you today? How can I help you? Any questions on the menu? And others say, hello. Yeah, what would you like? Are you ready to order? Now, they're not angry per se. What they are demonstrating, these waiters and waitresses, though, is the potency of the energy that's exchanged or given in any interaction, given and received. If that waiter were to say, hurry up, I have a lot of people to wait on here. They're showing their irritation. How are you going to feel? You may never even want to go back to that restaurant again. Why is that? Because in every interaction, in addition to giving out words, you're giving out some kind of energy, positive energy, like sunshine. I'm pointing to the window in my office, or negative energy, like storms, thunder, lightning, and even rain. While it can be useful and helpful, while it's going on, the tendency is to want to go back to the sunshine. So sunshine makes us feel good. Sunshine from other people gives us good feelings, and sunshine that you give out, smiles, words of appreciation, affection, warmth, caring, all those give positive energy. Anger does the opposite. So in terms of your relationships with people, if I can switch metaphors, anger draws money out of your account. Smiles, positive energy sharing, puts money into your account. Now, be careful of that metaphor, because it's not a good idea to withdraw from your positive energy account. To the contrast, you want to let it keep building. And the more you put in the account, the more people you interact with, and especially your loved ones, will put into your shared account. That's the goal. Positive interactions lead to more and more love, affection, bonding. We like that. Warmth, all those words. Okay, so much for definition and what anger, by contrast with positive words and smiles and good energy, do for people. And a distinction is very important here. What's good about anger is that it's a vital source of information for you. In that regard, anger is like a stop sign. What does a stop sign tell you? It tells you, ooh, there's some kind of danger ahead here. You better stop, look left, look right, process that information, think about it, and make a plan of action. Then you move forward with your action plan. So if anger is a stop sign, it's similarly telling you there's some kind of problem ahead. Stop. Look around to gather information. Excuse me, I'm going to be clearing my throat a bunch. I've got the local cold that's going around. So anger's telling you, stop, because there's a problem. Look around, figure out what the problem is, and map a plan of action. Now, when you see a stop sign and you stop and you see, oh, there's a car coming way too fast. Do you pick up your stop sign and clobber people with it? No, obviously not. Same with anger. Anger is a stop sign. It's to give you information. There's a problem ahead, and even give you a chance, if you stop, to assess the problem, to understand what's going on. It's not, anger is not there as an appropriate behavior. Only in the rarest, most dangerous situations is it appropriate to attack people, either verbally, even with just a tone of voice, and certainly not physically. Okay, so anger is a stop sign. When you feel angry, if you say to yourself, anger is a stop sign, hopefully that gives you time to calm down. Look around. Figure out a plan of action. Let's see what that would look like. How a stop sign, your anger, can be very helpful to you. Let's take the example of Ted. Ted was in a very difficult marriage. They divorced, and his wife started doing the parental alienation thing. Fortunately, it's still in the relatively mild stages. I was going to say beginning, and I don't want to say that because I hope that he will find ways to bring an end to it. Still, his wife does do a number of things that are very annoying. So he's prone to feel mad at her. So recently, for instance, he called her to say, I'm in New York, my plane is late, so I wanted to let you know, and I'm hoping you can keep our daughter longer, maybe 15 minutes, it could be up to a couple hours. I'm so sorry about that. Her response, you're so irresponsible. You should have scheduled yourself on an earlier plane. That was so dumb. I'm sick of you taking advantage of me. I mean, you know the sound of that. What's he going to do? Immediately, he felt the anger surge inside him. There she goes, accusing me of something that's not my fault, telling me what to do, all the things I hate. And his anger is going up and up the more he thinks that way. Anger is a stop sign. I need to distinguish between feeling angry and acting angry. So I'm going to pause for a minute. He did that quite well. In that pause, what did he need to ask himself? I have a technique I call best possible light. BPL, best possible light. Goes like this. It's two questions. First, he asks himself, if I look at my anger in the best possible light, what is my anger intended to accomplish? He thought, well, I guess my anger is intended, number one, to remind me what a difficult person she is, and number two, I think I'm getting madder and madder in order to mobilize to tell her she has to just be there to take care of our daughter. Oh, we get mad when there's something we want we're not getting, or something we're getting that we don't want. He was getting angered that he didn't want to receive, and he wasn't getting a solution to what to do about their daughter. So he said, okay, I'll take problem number one. About her giving me anger, he said, oh, question number two, sorry. There's two parts to this story, so it's getting a little complicated. But question number one in best possible light is, if I look at this in the best possible light, what is it intended to accomplish? And he realized it would dominate, to get him to dominate over her, so she'd stop doing anger, and so he'd win on getting her to take care of their daughter, which should have been a no-brainer. He said, wait, question number two. If what I want is for her to, my daughter to be taken care of, I'll take that part first. What might be a better in terms of more effective and less costly in terms of my getting upset way to get appropriate coverage for my daughter? He had a great idea. He said, you usually drop her off at 5 o'clock. That's fine. You just go ahead and do what you normally do. He called a neighbor. He has a lovely neighbor. He asked her, Shirley, my daughter will be dropped off at just about exactly 5. If you are free then, is there any chance you or one of your kids could be at our house, let our daughter in, and then just bring her to your house? Shirley said, oh, sure, we love when your daughter comes over. And our teenagers will all be hanging around the house around 5. They'd love to go over to your house. Actually, you have a better TV than we do. If you want, one of them can just stay over there and watch TV with your daughter. Oh, much better solution than trying to dominate with anger to get his wife to do what he wanted. Okay, 2 questions in best possible light. If I look at my anger in the best possible light, what is it intended to accomplish? And then, oh, what might be a less costly and more effective way to accomplish the same thing? So then he used those same 2 questions on his anger about his wife speaking so obnoxiously to him, calling him names, all out of anger. Oh, if I look at her behavior and how it provokes me in the best possible light, what's my anger intended to accomplish? He had an image of a big shield. Oh, it's to protect me so I don't feel hurt by what she said. Second question, what might be a better strategy than getting angry back at her to protect yourself? Oh, he had an interesting thought then. I can picture her in my mind as a little girl that's throwing a tantrum. When I think of her that way, I actually feel sorry for her. She has so little repertoire, such a minimal repertoire of ways to handle situations. She pops off in anger at just anything I do. She's really, when I think about it, kind of pathetic. What happened to his anger? It went away. What did he want? He wanted not to be hurt. When he stayed comfortable, strong, and looked down on her instead of up at her as if she's some kind of parent scolding him, everything changed. He felt protected from the anger. In fact, he said to himself, when I see her getting mad, I'm not going to think of her as a little girl. I'm going to think of her as some kind of animal caged by her own anger so that she can't hurt me. And it's just going, oh, he felt great about that image. Like a chattering something. I forget what the animal was he came up with. What's important is he got what he wanted. He wanted to stop letting her anger, or to cease the potential of her anger hurting his feelings. She lost her power because he took it away. Okay, that's best possible light. Again, the 2 questions with best possible light. If I look at my anger in the best possible light, what is it intended to accomplish? Second question, what might be a better in terms of more effective and less costly way to get what I want? Whatever it is that I realized in question number 1, I want. Okay, let's take a practical example. Here's a clinical example of what happened when Brian was dealing with his alienated 10-year-old. I'm jotting down the name I'm using because obviously these are my clients. I'm not going to use their real names. So Brian would get every time his daughter came, he'd to stay because at least his daughter would come one afternoon a week to spend time with him. Every time she'd come, she'd walk in with a smile. She wouldn't say hello. He'd say, hello, honey. And she'd scowl at him and then walk up to her room and slam the door. She would come out for meals. How did she come out for meals? Grumpy. Zero positive energy, like we were talking about earlier, and lots of negative energy, even though she said very little. every time she would do this, he could feel that anger coming up. So what did he do? He said, wait, anger is a stop sign. I know I feel hurt. I know I feel angry. Because what I want is to have a lovely interaction with her, just like we used to before the divorce. And I'm not getting that. What I'm getting is all this hostility, quiet hostility. Anger comes up when there's something we want we're not getting, or something we're getting that we don't want, or both. Okay, anger is a stop sign. He paused and he thought, what I want really is to have good times with her again. And what I don't want is all this grumpy disrespect. He said, what's a better strategy to get what I want? He said, well, the first thing I can do is stop interpreting it as disrespect. If I had acted that way to my parents, they would have said, you're disrespecting us. And that's what I've been doing with her. Did it work when my parents did it to me? No. The more they returned grumpy with grumpy, the more I felt negative toward them. So I think I'm going to throw that strategy out the window, and instead, what could I do that would be more effective, both in stopping the hostility and in regaining the kind of relationship we used to have, a really loving friend one? Thought and came up with an interesting idea. He thought, number one, she does tend to be nicer when her friends are around. So I think I'll encourage her to invite friends over. That had potential. He tried it, and at least while the friends were there, even though she mostly brought them into her room so she wasn't around and didn't have to interact with him, when they were in the same room, he and her daughter, she kind of ignored him in a pleasant way, pleasant relative to her usual hostility. So he thought, that's an upgrade. I'm getting somewhere. He came up with a second idea. But for some reason, his daughter, Karen, loved miniature golf. He remembered that. They haven't played in a year or two, certainly not since the divorce. He said to Karen, Karen, how about if you invite your friends and I'll take you all to play miniature golf? She actually brightened up a little. She did it. She invited her friends. He took them all to play miniature golf. He played with them, which he always used to do with her. Somehow, when he gets on that little miniature golf course, he goes into his fun teenager mode. And he'd be funny and dancing around and just having a great time. The friends all laughed, and even Karen laughed. Oh my goodness, he was stunned. He even responded by, oh, Karen, I love you so much, and put his arm around her. To his astonishment, she acted as if that was normal. The next time she came to visit, guess how she acted? The same old grumpy, close the door face. At the same time, he felt totally different. He realized, I have a strategy now. Instead of getting angry at her when she's acting out her hostility to me, which I know is she's just being her mom's foot soldier. So what did happen is next time she came and was grumpy, he was more relaxed about it. He said, that golf was so much fun. Let's go again one of these days. In fact, after dinner, there's probably time. Let's go over. She wasn't able to respond yes the first time. And when he continued to be relaxed and friendly and invited her friends to come again, They were able to do a second, maybe even a third time. I don't know about that. Once she'd had those couple of episodes where she was normal and got to see the happy, fun side of her dad, bit by bit, the walls came down. Definitely. Anger is a stop sign. Stop, look around and think. Gather information from your left and your right. Information about what you want. That's the two best possible like questions. And very important, what did she want? He knew she wanted to protect her mother. She knew that he understood now how difficult it would be for her to leave the role of being her mother's protector. And with that increased patience, he was able to let her gradually soften and eventually become his daughter again. So that's anger, what it's good for, identifying where there's a problem, what it's not good for, acting in anger as if your stop sign is a weapon for clobbering someone. He used his best possible light questions. And came up with a new strategy. And if that strategy hadn't worked, he would have come up with yet another strategy. Okay, so I'm torn between two things now. I think I'm going to switch the order of what I was going to do. I was going to next walk you through an illustration, the steps of how to deal with anger. Before I do that, though, I want to work with you on one other aspect of anger, which is very difficult for most people. When someone is angry at you, what responses can be helpful? In general, anger is like fire. If they breathe anger at you like a dragon, you're likely to catch fire. That's funny how, I don't know if it comes up on the video, but there was a thumbs up that just came up. Maybe that's saying how important it is that we have strategies for responding without anger, for protecting ourselves from the breathing out of anger from a dragon who is angry. You've probably heard about Biff. I'm blanking right now on the name of the psychologist who suggests that. You can ask Elaine Cobb at Family Access. But Biff stands for your goal is to respond in a way that's brief, just saying what you want. It's I is for, let me get my cheat sheet here, informative. So going back to the earlier example at the beginning of this talk, would be to say, look, my plane is going to be late. It's going to be between 5 or 10 minutes and a couple hours late, as far as I know so far. I'm concerned about the care for our daughter during that time. Brief and informative. The first step is for friendly. Friendly means sending out some positive vibes. You know, I was so appreciative a couple weeks ago when you had to stay late to take care of her. That was really helpful. And I don't want to make a practice of this. At the same time, it's another one of those situations where I'm up a creek. So I appreciate it so much. Big smile, voicing appreciation. And the second F in Biff is firm. So I would really like if you could keep her at your house until I get back. How do you feel about that? And if she said no, he'd work on it from there. So Biff is one option when someone's angry. There's a second option that can increase your odds of Biff being effective. when that person is angry, use the magic of yes, fill in the blank, and. So how do you say yes to someone who's speaking to you in a very angry way? She said, "You're so selfish, you're irresponsible, you don't plan ahead." Does he want to say yes to that? Yes, only he can say it with a little translation. Yes, I try to be responsible for things, and there really are some things that do come up. Yes, and that are outside of my control. So it sure must look like I'm being irresponsible. So you reframe it in a nice way. If she said, "You're selfish," yes, it is important to me that my concerns are met. And I hope I'm also listening to yours. It's the yes, agree with something, fill in the blank, followed by and then you add something. I can't count on you. Yes, excuse me, that's right. I have the kind of job where there are some factors that are out of my control, and I'm so sorry about that. And you hear how I'm taking negative words like selfish, irresponsible, can't be counted on, and saying yes to them, only putting them in a more positive frame by adding a little more information or changing the words. Yes, fill in the blank, and fill in the blank. What does that do to people? People like to feel heard. Now, for that reason, a yes and response can enable some people to calm down. I was going to say climb down from the anger tree that they're attacking you from, and interact in a pleasant way. Yes and is also diagnostic. If the person who's angry is not able to calm down with your very sincere listening for something you can agree with, even if it's with a reframed version of their words, and then adding a little bit more information. If they can't calm down with that, that's diagnostic. What's it diagnostic of? It's diagnostic that you're dealing with an amygdala hyperreactivity problem here. What does that mean? The amygdala is a little part of your brain way back here, kind of shaped like two almonds. There's two of them attached. The amygdala goes way back in our origins of our species. Even a reptile sitting on a rock has an amoeba. What's the amoeba for? It tells the reptile when there's a danger. So it provokes immediate response. Even in either fight or flight, it either or it's under the rock. So for human beings, the amygdala actually is wired similarly. When it pops off, thinking stops. There's no room for thinking, really. Instead, people spring into action, and the action is some form of aggressive action. Yelling at you, dominating, saying mean things. Okay, so if what you're dealing with is a person who has a hyper-reactive, overly reactive amygdala, once the amygdala has been triggered, they're not able to think anymore. They're not hooked up with their frontal lobes, the thinking part of their brain anymore. What will happen then if you try to reason with them, if you try to defend yourself? They can't process the information. That means not only will they not hear you and uptake the information, they'll get more and more on overload. When people are on cognitive overload, they get more and more angry. The moral of the story, if your diagnosis comes up with, oh, saying yes, even with a reframe, and then moving on from there in a nice friendly way, if that didn't work, it means they're caught up in an amygdala reactivity mode that's not going to be changed by your talking with them in any way. So your best option then, use your legs. Bye-bye. Just in a very nice way, leave the space. Any further interacting with them again, it's just going to make matters worse. Okay. That's the main things I wanted to share with you today. If you'd like to stay on this video, I have two things I'd like to do. Number one, everything I've shared with you today is from my book, Prescriptions Without Pills. It was very fun for me preparing for this talk because I went back and looked at my book chapter on anger. I found it really interesting. And it reminded me of a batch of information about anger that I'd forgotten. So it's a little weird to be recommending my own book or my own book chapter. I do recommend it. Second, in the website by the same title, prescriptionswithoutpills.com. If you go to that website, click the section on anger, scroll down on the, excuse me, on that page, there are some videos and a number of helpful things. At the bottom, however, there are also 3 handouts. At least 3. One of them is an anger log. I'd really recommend, if you've been getting angry probably too much, use the anger log. It helps you identify the triggers, helps you identify the time of day in case your anger is related to getting hungry or getting tired or being rushed or stressed. I call those anger fuels. So once you've identified the situations, a list of situations that tend to be triggering for you, you will be surprised how those same situations again and again are responsible for most of the times that you're angry. That makes your job much easier, your job of figuring out new strategies for getting what you want and stopping what you don't want from entering your space. So the anger log, which is free on prescriptionswithoutpills.com. There's the book, and now comes a little practice exercise. I like to start practice exercises with 3 words. Close your eyes. Okay, with your eyes closed, take a deep breath to clear your visual screen. Allow then an image to come up of a time, hopefully recent, could be an older time, when you felt anger coming up. Could be low-level anger, irritation, annoyance. Could be stronger anger or even rage. Okay, I'm hoping that image has come up. I'll give you another couple of seconds. As you look at that situation, who looks bigger, you or the other person or situation? Usually, anger serves the function of pumping you up Because if you feel big and strong, you're going to be more able to dominate and win. Remember, anger is a way of winning, of dominating, of getting your way by tromping on and triumphing over someone else. So that's the relative sizes. Notice in that situation, we're going to do first anger as a stop sign. Notice what happens if you step back from the situation. I know maybe you didn't then, only now as we view a new rerun of that movie, notice that you can step back, pause. Take a deep breath as you remove yourself from a situation you can't handle. You could remove yourself physically, or you could remove yourself just by pausing for a minute, change the subject. Oh, did you notice the painting on the wall? That's very unusual. I can't remember where we got that painting. Distraction gives you time to pause. Okay, now you're implementing anger as a stop sign. You're calming down. Now you're ready to look at what it is that you want that you're not getting, or that you're getting and don't want, or both. You access those by saying, if I look at my anger in the best possible light, what is it intended to accomplish? I'll say it again. If I look at my anger in that scene in the best possible light, what is it intended to accomplish? Follow-up question. What might be an alternative strategy for getting what I want? A strategy that's less expensive in terms of hurting people, including my getting hurt, and more effective, gets me what I want and stops what I don't want. So you may want to give that a few more minutes. I'll leave you with that dilemma to think about. Meanwhile, I'm just going to take a moment to circle back to review what we've covered today. We started with that anger is a continuum from quiet annoyance and irritation all the way up to rage. The techniques we're talking about work on all levels. They're especially important if there's high level anger, high intensity, because you got to remove yourself from the situation before you do real damage. Equally important is to catch it early in the anger early in the lightest stage. That makes it easiest to think clearly. The calmer we are, the more effectively we think. The calmer we are, the more likely we'll be able to hear the other person's concerns and even come up with a win-win plan of action. Okay, anger is a stop sign. Remove yourself from a situation you can't handle at all, or at least remove yourself by stopping your interacting. Best possible light, remember the two questions. If I look at my anger in the best possible light, what is it intended to accomplish? What might be a more effective and less costly way to accomplish the same thing? I hope by my saying these questions over and over again, it will help you to remember them. Remember, anger can help you because, like a stop sign, it encourages you to pause and look at what's the problem. Anger is likely to hurt you if you act in anger, speak in anger, behave in anger. The alternative to talking or acting in anger, calm down and problem solve. using best possible light to figure out what the problem is and come up with a totally different kind of solution. When people are mad at you, do you remember the magic technique? Yes. In order to say yes, you have to be thinking while they're talking or even yelling at you. What can I agree with here? And if it's a negative name they're calling you, find a benign way to refer to it. You're so selfish. Yes, I do try to make sure that what I need is taken care of. And at the same time, I really want to make sure our plan of action works for you as well. Yes, agree? And you add. If that doesn't calm them down, get out of the situation. It means there's some kind of an amygdala disorder and too much anger. The other person is not going to be able to be rational with you. And the more you try to talk with them, you'll make it worse. And with that happy note, good luck. I hope this has been helpful for you.
On our next Families Divided TV episode, Zach Flood talks about why would the children say that? Navigating loyalty contracts.